know, it's
That's
like,
why, yeah, they had
I
yeah.
can see because they had the raffle tickets, but they could have just put a bucket ahead.
all the airbrushing stuff, all that stuff went
Fake
into a
painting,
separate
fake
pot.
painting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all that went into a separate pot.
We forgot to get her faces painted. We're never gonna get her faces painted.
All right, everybody. Quit talking. Here comes the press.
John, are we starting that clock or my watch?
It says
that
the
clock-
reporter
Computer time saying. Computer time says 5:29.
5:30. Oh well.
We might as well get started.
Oh, right. I looked through it. There ain't much. All right.
I bet this is that guy from WCLT.
Here.
All right. Call the meeting to order. Mr. Groff, would you like to start with item number 1?
Item number 1 is a legislative request to reimburse the service department for some repairs. The service department budget is meant to basically maintain the building, change light bulbs, like gas to lawnmower, things like that. It's not meant to do major repairs. It's not big enough. Recently, the air handler downstairs in the basement, we have 2 of them. The last one we replaced last year. One we replaced last year, while the other one went out this year. And simultaneously,
Was it the same problem?
yep, same
That's
problem.
what I figured.
We have an air compressor that has 2 pumps on it. One of the pumps went out. So it cost us $13,925 to install a new air handler and replace the pump. Money which I don't have in my budget, but I had to go and authorize the repairs anyway because we needed them to keep the HVAC moving. So what I'm asking for tonight is that the council appropriate $13,925 from the general fund and transfer it to the service department maintenance fund to basically pay for those repairs.
We just taking this out of your paycheck, John, is that what we're doing?
I'm not even noticing. Minor deductions. That's about 4 years worth of pay.
Yeah. All right, Brian, you in favor of paying for this change? The meeting got a pay raise. You're okay.
Not that
Deb, you
I'm okay.
Yeah, we're just taking-
Unfortunately, this breakdown, correct me if I'm wrong, happened sometime around the tax deadline. Didn't
Yeah,
it?
that's right. That was really.
And the tax department, being right in the middle of the building, they get 0 air circulation. So there were fans running galore trying to, keep them comfortable in there at probably their most stressful time. So they did a good job handling it.
And the last thing you want is an unhappy tax preparer. Going over your tax stuff.
Yeah. All right, that was pretty much it. Second item.
Item number 2 is another legislative request having to do with the HVAC system, the administrative building again. If you remember last year, we spent probably $25,000 basically rejuvenating a portion of the HVAC system for the building. We cleaned out filters and stuff that are within the ceiling and everything like that. That was half of a project to get the HVAC system into a truly dependably operating system.
And efficient.
And efficient. What I'd like to do this year is finalize the project, do the last half of it, and that is the control system, which is the system from these controls here down to where the air handlers are and the air conditioners and the pumps. That is in bad shape, and it has to be replaced. And what I'd like to do is replace that this year. That will allow the system to finally run in a more economical and dependent fashion. It's the final thing we have to do to get the system so it's dependable again.
John, explain what those do in a little bit more detail.
Well, what
It's
it
the
is,
pneumatic control,
it's the
right?
pneumatic control system. Our HVAC operates on air pressure. These sensors basically adjust the pressure that goes to various louvers in the ceilings that open and shut based on air pressure. And the control system and the devices that convey the air pressure are out of date, they're cracked, they're broken, some of them aren't even operating. And of course, this building was built in 1974, and it's the original system. And it's essentially decayed and fallen apart over the years. So this is to replace that portion of the system. And when it is replaced, almost all the components in the system will be relatively new, with, you know, 6, 7 years old or newer. So as you're probably aware, we've been spending a lot of money each year on this. Hopefully this
Is that what you found last year that was like installed backwards?
No, that was what we corrected last year. That was, in the air ducts themselves, there are, yeah, some of the louvers were installed backwards. They found out when they were doing something else. So it's not really to correct that, we've already corrected that. It's to correct the control system that operates the louvers.
How much is this?
That's $23,966. And I'm asking that be appropriated and the mayor be authorized to sign a contract to get that done. And hopefully it'll be the last big dollar thing that we have to spend on this building for quite a while, as far as the HVAC goes.
What was the, I remember, John, on your capital improvement request list, there was something else involving the HVAC over here.
Right, there were
What was
two
that?
things. The second thing is the HVAC company has recommended that there are 3 sections to our HVAC: the police, the administrative, and the council side. The council side functions well. The problem is it's not properly controlled. When you cool the council chambers, you're cooling this room. When you're heating the council chambers, you're heating this room. The problem is you've got all of that cubic footage of space over there that you're heating and cooling 24 hours a day when you don't really need to. And what the HVAC people are suggesting is that we look at putting in a new type of HVAC system on this side that will allow you better control over each individual room. So that if you want this room to be 72, you can let that one go to 78, and vice versa, you know, things like that. So because you don't use that room that much, there's no sense in spending a lot of money paying for heating and cooling bills for that room when it's not in use. However, you use this one a lot more, so the system will be able to segregate the 2 rooms, basically be more economical in its use. And what we decided to do, though, because we had the air handler problem that cost us $13,000, is to delay that project until next year. Because it was just, I didn't want to spend that much money on the building in 1 year. There are probably more important things we can do other than that. So I'll probably come back next year to see if we can do that. It's a smaller project, but it'll be make this section more efficient and therefore save us a lot of money. Well, I don't know a lot, but some money at least in HVAC. So it isn't being done this year because the air handle had to be replaced downstairs.
Yes, Brett?
You got a couple competitive quotes on that, John?
No, we only have one. And the reason is we've only found one company that can adequately perform the HVAC functions in this building.
The system's so old.
Yeah, as I've been here for 20 years, and we've probably gone through 10 different companies, all the local ones, some from Columbus, and this one is from Zanesville, Tubble HVAC, and they're the only ones that we have found that really know the system and can work it. And they're the ones that have really patched this building up quite a bit since in the last 5 or 6 years. So they're the only ones that can do it. And if we do have a situation where something is above the, sometimes you have to bid it if it's above a certain amount. But none of these are above that amount, so we're okay. We don't have to competitive bid it. And I trust this company. They don't try to gouge us, and they respond to us very quickly when we have emergencies here. So they're worth their money.
John, you might mention the 1 or 2 back predecessors to Tubble that had described the costs that was going to be to get this up and running. And if I'm remembering right, it was $250,000 or something.
Oh.
It was a big number that they said, and Tubble has come in and successfully gotten these louvers to work the way they're supposed to work, and it was a big number that John was predicting.
Oh, yeah.
Chris?
Is any of this in the budget right now?
This 23 was in the capital improvement plan. This is the thing that obviously we weren't planning on.
Right, that was, okay.
Yeah.
So what was in the budget was I had about $17,000 in the budget to do this section of the building.
Right.
But I'm using that
Right,
13,000 as
okay.
its replacement.
Can we used to always have like a planning tool hang on the wall, like
I,
this big chart?
I
Can
just
we get one
mentioned,
of
I
those?
thought, I
Okay.
thought we were gonna have it for
I
tonight,
was,
but
okay, appreciate it.
I'm sorry.
But as Keith said, we've had other people in here, they've tried to sell us goods that I didn't think we needed, and they were being really unreasonable with cost. So that's why we're so satisfied with these people. They've actually proven themselves to be very good in their actions and their costs.
All right, let's go to number 3.
Number 3, more budget things, another legislative request. Another budget that's biting the dust very quickly is my engineering budget. This year, in the first 4 months, I've had a significant drain out of that budget for a lot of expenses for the 79 Safety Improvement Program. We've changed the plans at least twice that we've had to pay for. One was we didn't like the lack of a center lane during the maintenance of traffic phase, for the maintenance of traffic, and we wanted to go back and make changes. We had to pay for that. Another thing is we want to, if we can, replace the loop detectors with the cameras. We had to pay for that. And you're talking about quite a bit of money, and that's pretty much drained my engineering budget, plus the Thornwood Drive project. So I have virtually nothing left. And now what's happened is we found out last year when we had our EPA audit at the street department building, I think I might have mentioned this before, the floor drains in that building have to be connected to the sanitary sewer. So we have to go out and have a professional engineer draw up the plans. I mean, normally if it were your house, you just bring a contractor in and they do it. But because we have to have a professional engineer seal, we have to have the plans made, which is $4,000. And I don't have anything in my budget to cover it.
John, I don't, help me understand why you just can't have it done. I mean, is this because we're a governmental entity, it has to be engineered? What
EPA rule?
It's.
Brian, you know the answer to this one?
It's a process.
It's a process.
It's literally a process. It's a treatment process.
What they want is proof that we did it right. And therefore you have to have plans showing this is how we did it. And it's a long story. I kind of go berserk when I get into it. Brian suffers it more than I do. But in any case, it's the system that we work in. And it does ensure that the system will be put in right. It'll be designed properly, will meet their standards, their criteria. So.
What kind of a price are you looking at this thing costing, do you know?
It will probably cost, I'll say, I'm just gonna guess, you have to buy the oil separator bulb. So you're probably looking at about maybe $10,000. So the cost of engineering is 40% or probably, or more than the cost of the actual project to do it.
To paint some history, and Cletus will remember this, Tim will too. I think you were here when we built that 3-bay garage over there. We had to have an architect design that. Just a garage. Instead of say, build us a building with 3 doors and have a contractor, do that. You had to hire an architect, and I forget what that cost, but it's goofy.
Being a government agency, we have to pay for things that are ridiculous. But it's just the system that we're in, and we have to do it.
It isn't just government agencies, is it, Brian?
No,
It's
it's
you,
not.
it's me,
Private
it's all.
Anybody
Yeah.
that installs an oil water separator will have to have a permit, an engineer drawing and then permit to install it. And then they have to come out and inspect it. The EPA will inspect it before you put it to use, and then you get a permit to operate it. It's a process, not a physical process going to. What I mean is it's essentially a treatment process. You're separating oil and water, they consider that treatment, so they want you're permitted for doing that. In fact, Christian, this is how petty they are. Robinson Construction installed an oil water separator, but wasn't tied in anywhere. So they made him fill it with sand in fear he may go ahead and use it.
And use it again?
And then, no, this is a new one. And then when he got everything out there he needed it tied in, then he had to get all the sand removed from that unit. So he paid to install it, paid to fill it full of sand in case he would have the idea that he'd wanna use it, then had to have all the sand pumped out of it, so they're terrible, they're terrible.
Columbus has a whole inspection.
John, let me ask you, do you, I mean, I'm trying to think in my mind about the rest of the year.
Street department has to have it.
I can't think of, you know, the bridge project has been engineered. I'm trying to think, are there other expenditures
Oh, yeah.
going to come out of this fund?
Next month, I'll probably come back to you and ask for an appropriation of money to infuse back into my engineering budget. Because there are other things, the year's only 1/3 over. And I'm going to have to supply dollars for inspection services for the bridge. And on the State Route 79 project, if ODOT has to call the engineers in, we have to pay for the engineers to come in that design the project. So probably.
To do inspections?
Not to do inspections, but if there are questions on the plans, the contractor needs interpretations or has questions on the plans, they call your engineer in, the engineer comes in and says, well, this is what it is and everything. For meetings on site and things like that, whether it's for the 79 project or for the bridge project or the Thornwood Drive project, whenever you have a design done, that doesn't also pay for the engineer to come in during the construction process and answer questions or give interpretations of the plan or possibly do plan modifications. So I don't have any funding for that at this particular point. And I don't want to do anything now because I'll have a better idea of what it will cost at the next meeting. So there'll be more. It's just a rough year for engineering. Some years I use half my budget. Some years my budget gets blown very quickly because so many unpredictable things occur. And that's what we're getting into this year. But things get done.
So that total project, I'm guessing, is 10,000 or 14,000?
I would say including engineering, 14,000 for the street department drain tie-in.
You know, Dick, you were talking about cost and all that, and it's unfortunate, but you actually have to be permitted. Not just any contractor can even come put that in. EPA has a process that you go to become certified to actually put that stupid concrete vault in the ground. If you don't have it, you're not doing it. So, and
We don't.
yeah, okay, you know.
And the good news is,
You know.
there's more to come on about that kind of stuff on the agenda. So we'll get back into this in a few minutes.
All right, we'll prevent.
Okay, item number 4, State Route 79 pre-exemption system. What this is Mark Huggins actually talked to you about this a year ago. He would like to get a system, which I think is a good idea, that would be installed on our traffic signals that allows the fire engines and the street department or the police department vehicles to control the lights so that they become green as they approach them so they can go through safely. And what he wasn't able to do it, and what I told him I would try to do is the state of Ohio has something called safety funds, which is a lot of what is being used to pay for the 79 project. As an independent project, I told him I would see if it would be possible to apply for safety funds to get that for him. And that would go in not just on 79 where we're doing the project, but all of 79, all of 30th Street, wherever we have traffic signals. So I'm exploring whether or not we can get funding to help him do that now. I just wanted to mention that. That would be a nice system to have for both the police and the fire departments. And we'll see if we can control units for the council people too for their vehicles.
What year would that money be available?
Probably, I would say 2 years, maybe. It would take that long, depends on how much of a demand there is for safety funding. But Newark's used.
If those funds are even still there.
If they're there.
At that time.
Newark has used those funds for a lot of the improvements they're making on State Route 16 at the intersections and stuff like that, where they have high accident rates. That's the pot of money I'd like to go for to see if we can do that too. So I told Mark that I would try from our end. He apparently tried to get funding through other sources. I don't know if it was FEMA or something like that, and wasn't able to do it. So I'll try our end.
When do you apply for that? What month?
I don't know yet. I'm trying to get that information. Now, the first thing you have to do is something called a safety study, which explains what the problem is and makes a recommendation how you resolve it. The NODOT has to accept the safety study results. If they're satisfied with it, they'll put you in line to get funding for it. So we have to go through that step first. There's not a guarantee we'll get it at this point.
Didn't he have that once, that kind of a system, or was that Newark?
I don't think we've ever had it. I don't know where there is a system like that around here. Newark tried to get it as well. As a matter of fact, Newark and Heath went together to try to get it. That's when Mark was working on it. Then Newark didn't have the financial resources to back up their part of the system, so they weren't able to get it. So that might be what you're thinking.
Well, I was thinking late '70s, but either Newark or Heath had it. It's probably Newark.
I wouldn't know then. Not even I go back that far. As old as I am.
Was that a shot?
I don't know, Pops. So anyway, hopefully that will be coming up again with more positive information.
Okay. Any other, next item?
The next item, in March, we held a public information meeting for the State Route 79 Safety Project. And we are going to do that again this week on Wednesday. We are going to have one. At 9 o'clock in the morning, we'll have a presentation, and at 6 o'clock at night. Just a general information session for the public. If they have any questions, come on in, see what's going on. Ask the questions. We'll see if we can get some viable answers to them and things like that.
What were the times again?
One will be at 9 in the morning, and it'll probably go from, say, 9 to 10. We can stay longer if there's a crowd. The last time, only a few interested bystanders showed up, and we appreciate it.
And they came to the afternoon one.
Yeah, you came to the
Yeah,
afternoon.
yeah.
And the afternoon one is at 6 o'clock. We're just trying to use as many resources as possible in getting the information out. So it's not a complete surprise to people when it occurs. And we'll also probably talk about the Hopewell Drive Bridge project at that time too. We'll see if we can get some information up on that. That's less known.
Good, number 6, I guess.
Item number 6, a couple of things of interest. We were talking about the EPA a few minutes ago, and I'm going to bring them back into the picture. You may not realize this, but the pool discharges water to the river. And the newer part of the pool, the water park, has a system that treats the water to dechlorinate it, remove the chlorine. And then it can push that into the river, and the EPA doesn't have a problem with that. The older part of the pool doesn't have that kind of a system. And what's been happening is when they do something called a backwash, I guess when they wash their filters, which is something they do every couple of days, maybe every day sometimes, and it could take, half an hour to do or something like that, that water is sent directly to the river, which is extremely illegal because it still contains the chlorine. So
What was the other thing? DE? Something?
it's something that cleans the filters.
Yeah.
Some agent that cleans the filters.
Yeah.
And but in any case, it's illegal to discharge the water into the creek.